The Spider-Verse movies are proof that superhero stories are better suited to animation than live action, and more budget and effort should be put into animated superhero projects.
Okay.
I can't disagree with this, honestly. Really quick, before we get into our hot takes for Spider-Man, Drew, congrats. Because we just hit 5K subscribers.
We did. We haven't talked about it at all.
I know, we're long overdue on talking about it, but thank you guys for helping us hit that
For
milestone,
sure. That's
which
so awesome.
I feel like a lot of YouTube channels, I mean, you guys probably don't watch the ones that don't hit 5K, but a lot of them don't actually hit 5K. So
That's true.
we are appreciative.
Very appreciative.
We are just like so beyond blessed and grateful for you guys.
I know I say this every episode, and it might get redundant, but I don't really care. The fact that we have this many comments to respond to is insane.
We scroll down our notes app and it just keeps going.
It's actually crazy that like y'all are participating this much.
If
so
we weren't
that's
so
awesome.
grateful, we'd be really annoyed. So, no, but seriously, thank you guys. Welcome back to Stole My Line, a Fireside film podcast. I'm Grant.
And I'm Drew.
This is Spider-Man Hot Takes.
Yep.
This is like our fifth, sixth, maybe seventh Hot Takes episode we've ever done on the podcast. If you like Star Wars, we have a whole Star Wars Hot Takes series that will have 4 episodes.
We've also done general movie hot takes.
Yeah, we did an episode of that, which is cool. So if you have a hot take basically about anything, you can send it in. We hope to get to it. There's so many.
Yep.
But also, you can go check out our channel, hit that subscribe button. Drew, break down the hot takes format really quick.
All right. This is pretty simple. If you've been here before, you know what's up. If you haven't, welcome.
Thank you.
We have received hot takes from y'all, the audience.
Just commented on stuff
Yeah.
or emailed to us.
We are either going to agree or disagree.
Yep.
And then we're going to rate it on our hotness scale here. And
What's
it
our
goes
hotness scale, Drew?
as follows. Raging Fire is the hottest of the hot.
Yep.
If your hot take is a scorcher, that's where we're going to throw it. Enough for s'mores. You can definitely cook something there. You have some smoke, only embers, and then wet logs. This is not a reflection of the validity of your take.
Yes.
This is merely
How
in the
hot.
cultural conversation, how hot is your take?
And this is also our opinion. Other
Yeah,
people will
subjective.
say, oh, that's a hot take. You came here for our opinion.
Right.
And so we're giving
It's
it.
true.
But again, thank you guys for sending in stuff. We may agree or disagree. We will say whether or not we agree or disagree.
Yep.
We're somewhere in the middle. Drew, do you want to go first?
I would absolutely love to.
By the way, we gave our own Spider-Man hot takes on the last episode. So
True.
go check that one out if you haven't already.
Okay. We're going to start off strong with a Stole My Line.
Stan?
Regular.
Let's go.
PapaGlucose.
Oh, let's go.
Legendary name. The best Spider-Man movie love interest is, without a doubt, Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy. MJ has effing brainworms or something, the whole trilogy, and MJ 2 is just meh.
Effing brainworms.
Effing brainworms.
Okay. Hotness scale. Off the bat, I don't think this is that hot.
I don't think it's that hot either.
I think the only person that can maybe actually compete is the other Gwen Stacy in the Spider-Verse trilogy.
Agreed.
But I don't think she's a better love interest than Gwen Stacy in the TASM 2 movies.
Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield's chemistry
Off the charts.
is absolutely unbelievable.
Uh-huh.
I 100% agree here, actually.
Yeah. I don't think it's that hot of a take.
Nope.
This has got to be only Anders.
Yep.
I'm
I'm
fine
okay with that.
Yeah. But great take sent in. We completely agree. As for the other MJs, I think MJ1 in the Raimi trilogy gets a little too much hate, but also I don't know. I'm just not. I don't think of her as a love interest. Is that weird? I just think of her as a character, not like, oh, she's Peter's love interest. Even
Yeah,
though
she
is.
feels more. She feels more. This might be a hot take, actually. Maybe.
Well, you're on the right podcast for that.
She feels more. What's the word?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Autonomous.
Sure.
And then MJ 2. Zendaya feels very plot devicey.
I do think that in Brand New Day, she's great. In the
Yeah,
latest
I agree.
movie. But like in the Homecoming trilogy, she's just kind of
She's
like
just the love interest.
she has the name MJ, and she is a love interest. So yeah,
But Kirsten Dunst feels like she has autonomy and makes her own decisions.
yeah, she has agency in that movie, and
Yeah.
she's good, even though some of the character decisions she makes are maybe questionable.
Go check out the last episode of Spider-Man Hot Takes. We
Talk a lot about that.
we defended Kirsten Dunst as MJ.
But there are critiques that are valid too.
For sure.
So yeah, thank you for sending that in, PapaGlucose. All right, I have a long one.
Okay.
But we're just gonna read it and see what we think. This is from Lantern Rainer -P6P.
Okay.
So, thank you, Lantern. I'm just going to call you Lantern. Spider-Man hot take, people are way too precious about the source material and doing things exactly the same way, when in all honesty, a lot of decisions made in these adaptations are, in my opinion, way better and make more sense. Like, there is no good reason that the web shooters are non-negotiable to people when it objectively makes sense that he should have those in his power set by default. He has something as abstract as spider sense, and Miles can create lightning based on spider stinging, but shooting webs is unacceptable, ? He can demonstrate intelligence without only creating this one hyper-specific thing. Also, hearing people complain about Spider-Man suits straying at all from the default suit is incredibly annoying and fully dismisses the job of art style. Like, for example, the rival suit is the classic suit, just made to fit the design language of the game. Stop acting like you're being robbed when you have 50 games already with the untainted design, even when movie designs aren't specific or aren't significantly different enough for me to make a stink about any individual one of them. So basically, this guy is saying, or girl, sorry, this person is saying, you shouldn't care as much about the source material as you do if you're like really hung up on it. And like the web shooter thing, for example, it's fine if Peter has organic webs, and don't get super hung up on the suit because people have art direction for movies.
Right.
If we're synthesizing the take, that's a longer one. What do you think?
I 100% agree here, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the question is, like, where's the line?
That's the question. Yeah.
Because we talk a lot about, like, what is a, like, good Spider-Man movie versus bad Spider-Man movie? What's a good Peter Parker moment and Spider-Man moment versus a bad one? So, like, where does the source material and, I guess, honoring the character really matter?
Here is my take, and I could be wrong, and this is definitely, I'm not super hard on this take, this is more like a discussion, but this is kind of my opinion as of August 7th, 2026.
Okay.
When you distill the character, if you can still nail the core ideals of the character, I don't really care.
Yes.
Like, I think Spider-Noir, which I haven't read a ton of Spider-Noir comics, so this take could be completely wrong, but very different than your average Spider-Man vibe.
Yeah.
And I think it nails Peter Parker or Ben Reilly or whatever.
Yes.
Very well. So when it comes to the suit or the web thing or even like characters, I'm like, I don't really care as long as you nail the essence of who the character is. With great power comes great responsibility. And like, give me tension between Peter's superhero life and normal life. Like, these are the things that I look for in Spider-Man stories, and as long as those are there, I really don't care about all the extraneous details. Because, at some point, creatives want to be creative.
Yeah.
And if you want to have a spin and do something interesting with, like, different villains or different suits or whatever, I think it's great.
Yeah, I think reasoning really matters. And also building a movie and, like, a story really matters, because some of the things that occur in comics, like, aren't going to translate best one-to-one to screen.
That's true.
Right? Stylization matters. I think an example, we talk about MCU stuff too. We had like this Doomsday trailer reaction. And we mentioned that Gambit is like a side character and just feels like he's been hoisted up to the front of the MCU in this movie a little bit, right? In Doomsday, because he was in the trailer. And we had a bunch of comments saying like, you guys don't know ball, Gambit's in the comics. I'm like, yes, you are correct that he is in the comics and important in the comics, for sure. He's been in one MCU movie. And he was a kind of throwaway side character in Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, that's it. And now he's supposed to be a main player in Doomsday? And, like, we haven't seen the movie, so I don't want to comment too much on that. But, like, a movie can be good or bad and, like, still adapt stuff differently. And we don't have to know all the comics to say, this thing isn't good in the movie or this thing is good in the movie.
Yeah.
That's my point.
No, I think I agree with that.
So,
yeah.
Hotness scale for this take.
This could be pretty hot, actually.
Yeah, this is probably on the hotter side.
I'm going to say enough for s'mores, just because there are some comic diehards. And look, hey, I read Spider-Man comics and comics in general kind of every day. Basically every night.
It's important to know the source material.
I love them. I think they're great. But
yes.
I also think having a little creative freedom is good.
Yes. I completely agree.
Yeah.
But Lantern Rainer P6P, thank you for sending this in. This is a good take.
Yep.
I liked to talk about this one.
Great take.
It was fun.
All right.
You're up, Drew.
Should we do another long one?
Let's do another long one.
Okay. Holy up.
We kind of avoid them, honestly. So.
This is a long one.
Okay.
All right. This is from Justin Atcombe.
Okay.
Justin at home. 8966.
Okay.
Oh, okay, it's 3. We'll crank them all out. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's go for it.
I've narrowed it down to 3. They're a little all over the place, but I'm trying my best not to write essays and hoping conversations will fill in the gaps.
Okay.
All right.
Take one. With that being said,
Spider-Man 3 is so overhated. Ooh, this is applicable to you.
Yeah.
It's not as good as the first 2, but it's not an actual bad movie. It doesn't have too many villains, and there is justification for all of their inclusion. People were just not on board for the versions they went with. I can agree that perhaps screen time is not allocated properly, and I can concede that there are not my ideal versions of Harry and Eddie necessarily. But I think that Sandman fully justifies his presence. Eddie is a combination of the mainline and Ultimate versions. That was streamlined as well as it can be for a single movie to darkly reflect a Peter Parker that did not learn responsibility or shame. And Harry becoming the Goblin is paying off 2 movies of setup, even factoring in some of the manipulation that he is known for in the comics. I do like the unexpected redemption, though I think there's a comic precedent for that too. I think originally he died heroically to save someone. I just can't remember the details. And I do wish that the amnesia thing was just an act to torment Peter. But anyway, I don't think the 3 villains are the issue with that movie, and the Black Suit story is done considerably well when you factor in that Raimi was forced to implement Venom.
Okay. I have a lot of thoughts, and this is just one take, by the way.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that on paper, Spider-Man 3 is not like the biggest atrocity. Like if we're just like boiling it down to the core story, like Sandman's arc is fine.
Right. I think it's fine.
I don't love how it retcons kind of Uncle Ben's death in the first movie. Don't really love that because it kind of takes away some of the weight of Peter's decisions in that movie. But whatever. I think Eddie Brock is still not very well written, even though like. I mean, we just talked about being faithful to comics. Like, yeah, is it faithful to the comics? Probably decently well. I haven't read them. But also, it doesn't translate to screen super well. I think it's just like a super one-note character with no depth at all.
I agree.
And then, I think Harry's arc is not that bad. I think he's probably the stronger part of the movie, of the 3 villains. But I don't like how he just jumps straight from the second movie where he's kind of dealing with this tension of like, should I attack Peter? Should I not? Like, I now know that Peter is Spider-Man. In the first scene of the movie, he's attacking Peter. I'm like, I feel like we could have played with some more tension there, at least within that movie.
I think the whole amnesia thing stunts his character arc in this movie pretty severely because you could have had that tension.
Yeah.
Of do I attack Peter? He's my friend, but also I think he killed my dad and stole my girlfriend and all the things.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I think the amnesia thing could have also been very interesting to play out for a full movie.
Yeah.
But it's like only part of it. And like we could have really put Peter in a weird situation of like, well, Harry starts asking questions like, hey, what really happened to my dad? And like really starts poking around the stuff that Peter doesn't really want to tell him, and then Peter has to wrestle with that. And we don't get any of that. Like it's half-baked.
Yeah.
I just think like my biggest issue, besides the execution of this movie, is also that like there's a lot of cool ideas for all 3 of these villains, and none of them get enough screen time.
Yeah.
And the pacing is kind of poor.
Which isn't Raimi's fault. But
yeah, it's really not.
It does exist, and it needs to be a part of the conversation.
Is it too hated? I don't know. I dislike this movie so much.
I think it is overhated, so I think I agree here. I don't think it's a good movie, but it's not like the worst movie I've ever seen.
I will disagree. Soft disagree with a lot of respect for your take.
Okay. I think it's fine.
Hotness scale for this first one.
Either enough for s'mores or some smoke.
I like some smoke.
Okay.
All right, that's number 1. Here's number 2.
All right. Number 2. TASM 2, Well at Hard Watch, is full of great moments. Wait, hold on. Reading's hard. TASM 2, Well at Hard Watch, full of great moments, does reflect what it's like to be Peter Parker and the way it's structured, and was deliberately edited to feel like a ticking clock running out until the literal clock breaks, which is interesting as a theme. I do think the time motif is cool. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he's Peter or Spider-Man, life doesn't just keep happening. But it always seems like it's happening to him. There are things happening equally related to him and by coincidence, but they will still fall on him to take care of or mess up. We get crime that will happen no matter what, with no connection, Rhino, with people he knows as Peter, Harry, and people he meets as Spider-Man Max. And even when he makes a responsible choice, there are negative consequences for him. When he chooses to focus on problems as Peter, Spider-Man gains enemies. In this case, all three face demons and rise to power by getting needed attention from Peter or Spider-Man. There are so many plots being juggled, they had to cut some out, but even if the specific problems are heightened, that feeling is very relatable to an overwhelmed young adult who is trying to deal with identity, their love life, making time for family, multiple jobs, and trying not to be selfish. This is a flawed movie worthy of criticism, but I think it is a very Spider-Man story, even in its delivery.
I completely agree.
I think I completely agree here, too.
Yes, there are issues with this movie, but I mean, outside of all the story reasons, which I think are very valid, this movie has character that other, even Spider-Man movies don't have. So to see it at the bottom, like, it shouldn't be towards the bottom of every Spider-Man list, maybe. But, like, there's really good moments, and it has more character than some of the other Spider-Man movies. I think, like, it gets overhated a little bit.
I think TASM 2 is the most wrongly overhated.
I would say yes. I think Raimi 3 gets too much love, but that's just me. No, I think like TASM 2, its worst moments are very, very bad. I hate Tooth Fusion. It's stupid.
You got to get off Tooth Fusion.
No, Tooth Fusion is dumb. Dumb.
It is dumb, but it's 2 seconds of this 2.5-hour movie.
And it's a stupid 2 seconds. I will harp on this for the rest of my life.
We're going to say those in every Hot Takes episode.
I don't care. I do think that it balances the core of what makes Spider-Man the superhero very good. Like, it balances that within the movie decently well overall, despite bad villains. Like, yes, I think everything that you listed of, like, what it's like to be a young adult and to balance family and then leaving your family and, like, working and trying to have a relationship with somebody and, like, all these things, school, the stuff that can be very difficult for a young adult to balance, like, Spider-Man represents that very well, and I think it's part of why he's so relatable.
Yep.
And I think this movie does a good job of representing that despite its very big flaws.
I agree.
So I agree.
Yep.
How hot is this take?
I don't think this is crazy. I'm going to say some smoke.
2 some smokes. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I think there's some hotness there, but not too much.
Okay.
All right, number 3, go for it.
3, I would rather see a Spider-Girl legacy sequel to the Raimi movies than a Spider-Man 4. Expectations are too high. They will never be met, and many of the original concepts have made their way into other things. I was disappointed in No Way Home when there seems to be no indication of what he has been up to since Spider-Man 3, except that he and MJ work things out, especially the implications that there are no other heroes in that world, because as an early 2000s Marvel kid, there was a common belief that they occupied one universe across company lines, despite having solo stories. Interesting. I didn't never know that.
I guess we weren't really
we weren't alive then,
at that time.
In that way, with the exception of the multiverse, with Multiverse of Madness of Earth's 838 having a differently connected MCU, seeing Wolverine meeting Johnny for the first time as if never before. Who's John? Johnny Storm? When did Wolverine meet Johnny Storm? Are we talking comics or MCU? I don't even know.
I haven't seen all the X-Men movies, low-key, so
I don't know if that happened, but okay. For the first time, as if never before, and the team in the void being from different worlds from each other killed the idea. Oh! Deadpool Wolverine.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'm tracking now.
Thank you.
And I will inevitably feel that again when Toby doesn't know anyone if he appears in either of these Avengers movies, knowing at least that he and MJ reconciled and not knowing what that looks like. I would love to move forward from there with their daughter Mayday and the most criminally still definitely sick, guys. The most criminally underrated Spider-Man character Marvel has at this point, especially not knowing how that universe has grown and changed since No Way Home. I kind of agree. Well, I like the concept.
I don't have a lot of stakes in this take. Like, I think it's interesting.
Would you rather have Spider-Man 4 with Tobey or Mayday?
Mayday, probably. I don't think we should have a Spider-Man 4. I would rather have TASM 3 than Spider-Man 4.
Ooh.
Like, straight up. I don't care. I don't care at all.
Here is what I would want from a Spider-Man 4. I think there's two things I want to say. One, I think the new Ultimate Spider-Man run where Peter's an adult and, like, with kids, super interesting. I love it. I think it's great. But that would be super interesting to see Tobey and Kirsten Dunst as parents while he's a superhero. We've never really seen that in a movie, kind of, period. I mean, maybe like Incredibles. But
yeah, I think Incredibles is close. I mean, there's a brief mention of him having a daughter. I mean, I guess his daughter's across the Spider-Verse. Yeah, briefly, but that's not really like touched on at all.
So that would be a super cool movie to see. And then, I mean, you could do that with a Mayday movie too, I guess. But that would be awesome. I don't think Tobey needs to know anybody if he's in Secret Wars or Doomsday.
I mean, he already doesn't know what the Avengers are in No Way Home.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's fine. But I think that will be the least of our problems. If Tobey knows people, I'm not going to be like, oh, he doesn't actually know anybody. Or if he doesn't, I'm like, that movie has way bigger fish to fry than that.
It does.
But I think your first take of Spider-Man 3 is interesting.
Yes, I agree. How hot is this?
I don't know if this is a hot take. I'm going to say some smoke again.
Wow. 3 some smokes.
Okay.
But interesting takes nonetheless. Thank you, Justin Acombe.
Agreed.
All right, are you ready for the next one, Drew?
I'm very ready.
When we find it, I had one that I really liked. All right, this is from Nerdy Cynic 1893.
Okay.
The Spider-Verse movies are proof that superhero stories are better suited to animation than live action, and more budget and effort should be put into animated superhero projects.
Okay.
I can't disagree with this, honestly. I mean, well, you talk first, actually.
I think animation is a medium, live action is a medium, and it doesn't affect story at all. Well,
that's not true.
Okay, explain.
Well, okay.
Like, I'm just saying, stories are stories.
I just think some stories translate better depending on the medium. Like, I just don't think Spider-Verse in live action would translate well.
I think that's true. I agree.
It's like, this is like a tangent, but like the Avatar: The Last Airbender live action adaptations have been hit or miss at best.
True.
And at worst have been horrendous.
Right.
But then in animation, the bending looks incredible, and like obviously the storytelling is better. And like, even though, like, let's say somebody did a shot-for-shot remake of Atla in live action, which is kind of what they should have done for the show, but whatever. Like, stop making changes. But the bending just doesn't look the same. Like, it just looks better in animation. And it elevates the story. Because, like, it's more believable. There's more suspense of disbelief.
I agree. I mean, I'm thinking of, like, Arcane, and I'm like...
Sorry.
It's fine.
It's all
animation is so bright and colorful, or has the potential to be. And in, like, live action, I don't think that translates well. So when you have these flashy superpowers of, I mean, like bending or like Invincible or Spider-Man, it is almost more intriguing to have it animated.
Like, I feel like there's so many times I'm watching something, and like I hate that my brain works this way. But like, I'll be watching a show where I care about the characters, and then the moment, like, I don't know, I'm watching a superhero movie, and the moment the superpowers come on screen, I'm like, it pulls me out because I'm like, I just see how fake it looks because I can pick CGI out instantly for the most part. Like, I don't know. Like, I know it can be done well, and there's some movies that it's done incredibly. But, like, I think The Incredibles works so well because, like, you're not thinking about, oh, did the superpowers look good or not? Because it's all animated. Like, it all looks the same.
I don't hate this take, but also I think these are mediums.
If we're saying that more resources should be invested into animation for superhero
agree.
stuff, I can completely agree. So, yes. Good take.
Good take. I think
Hotness
it's good.
scale.
I think that the hot take here is the sentence, superhero stories are better suited to animation.
Okay, but if you think about it, like, let's say better suited to animation. I mean, like, if we're talking about it translates
Maybe
easier,
I actually agree here.
like if it translates easier to animation, which it does.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Then that's not crazy. Like a comic book to animation is a easier transition than comic book to movie, live action.
Okay. I think I've been convinced. Yeah, I think I have.
But on a hotness scale with how Hollywood is right now, this got to be a pretty hot take, right?
I think enough for s'mores or Raging Fire.
I think it's enough for s'mores. I don't think we're at Raging Fire level yet.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, you're up, Drew.
Okay. We're going to go Michael Caboose,
Oh, let's go.
8685. Spider-Man 1 and 2 are the best Superman. Is this
Okay, this is funny. So I saw this comment,
Yeah.
and I thought, it listen, the U and the I are very close.
Surely this is a typo.
This could be a typo, and I want to talk about both versions, because this person says, Spider-Man 1 and 2 are the best Superman stories ever put to screen.
Right.
I commented, like, surely this is a typo. I don't think this person ever responded.
Oh, tragic.
But if you think about it, it's not that crazy of a take.
Okay, continue.
Think about what Superman stands for.
Right. Hope.
Hope.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Like helping people.
Right.
Wrestling with, like, should I, like, stay with my family and, like, I don't know, like, all this stuff. Like, should I honor my family on Earth or should I be a Kryptonian?
Sure.
There are similar elements in all of, like, of all of that in Spider-Man 1 and 2 in a different font.
There's not like a wrestle of am I human or am I a Kryptonian?
I think, like, being from another planet, but, like, being a human, like, on Earth, like, how do you balance that? Like, I think that's a core part of Superman. Like, I'm from somewhere else, but, like, my family's here. Like, that's a pretty core theme.
I know in Superman, but is that in Spider-Man?
I would say, like, this is a reach, but, like, I am different now with my powers. Should I date MJ and be a normal person, or should I be Spider-Man? Like, that, if we're talking about that wrestle, they aren't too dissimilar. Listen, it's a reach, but
that's a reach.
We're going to talk about this typo. I'm just trying to justify this typo a little bit.
Okay, I definitely think this is a typo. I think Spider-Man and Superman are different, so...
Okay. Now let's say it was a typo.
Okay.
Spider-Man 1 and 2 are the best Spider-Man stories ever put to screen. Are they the best Spider-Man stories put to screen?
Are we counting the PS4 game?
I'd say screen. We'll say the PS4 game doesn't count as screen in this context. Silver screen.
Are we counting shows?
No. Silver screen.
Okay, well then yes. Yeah, I think so, yes.
Do you think Spider-Man 1 or 2 are better stories than Spider-Verse?
No. No. So I disagree. I forgot. We've talked about live action for so long.
We have talked about so much live action.
Yeah, I think Spider-Verse is better.
I would say these are in the top 4 best Spider-Man stories put to screen.
Yeah, for sure.
If somebody is to make this claim and, like, plant their flag here, I'm not gonna be like, you're wrong. I'll be like, okay, whatever.
I agree.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, we agree. Where are we on the hotness scale for this one?
I don't think this is crazy hot. I think what you said is true. Like, if someone was claiming this, I wouldn't. It's not the craziest thing. I'm going to stay only immersion.
Yeah. Look at us agreeing on that.
Okay.
All right. Is it my turn?
It is your turn.
I'm trying to find one. Okay. This is from Shadow Striker 640.
That's
and
a
we've kind of talked
name.
about... Yeah, it is a good name. We kind of talked about this in a general sense a few times, but Andrew Garfield is a worse Peter Parker than Tom Holland, but a better Spider-Man overall. His quips are more in line with the comics. His suits don't seem like they're trying to be anything but Spider-Man, and he has overall more style and stunts than anything we've seen from Tom Holland. I bet you this was commented before Brand New Day, so we'll talk about it pre-Brand New Day and post-Brand New Day. How you feel about that?
Pre-Brand New Day, I completely agree. I think Andrew Garfield's funnier. I think he's more dynamic in, like, his movement and even just, like, his personality.
Yeah.
So I think I 100% agree here. What about you?
Pre-Brand New Day, I would Completely agree.
Okay.
I think the TASM movies, going back and watching them, they just overall have more character
Agreed.
than like the Homecoming trilogy. I also think people hate on the basketball suit from TASM 1. I think it kind of looks cool. I mean, it looks weird, but also it does look kind of like what Peter Parker would make.
I agree. It
As a
feels very
fursuit.
teenager made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I like Tom Holland in the Homecoming trilogy, but like if we're talking about a good Peter Parker and Spider-Man, like I think Andrew Garfield just fits that bill pretty well.
Post Brand New Day.
I gotta say I'm starting to disagree a little bit.
I think Tom Holland in Brand New Day is quippy. I think he's funny. I think he is equally as dynamic.
He
on
feels
a
like
move.
Peter Parker.
He feels like Peter Parker.
I would say his suit too. Like if we're talking about suits, his suit in Brand New Day feels like Spider-Man.
It's awesome.
It feels like a Spider-Man suit that's not trying to be Iron Man's version of Spider-Man or the MCU version. No, it's just trying to be Spider-Man. Within the MCU, it's still trying to be Spider-Man.
I agree.
I would say Brand New Day kind of taints your hot take a little bit.
Yeah, but yeah. Right.
I like the take though.
I do too.
How are we feeling on the hotness scale here?
I said this on the last episode. I think this specific conversation of who's the best Spider-Man is so subjective that it's hard to quantify how hot of a take these are because there's so many people in every camp.
I feel like it also depends a little bit on like who you grew up with, because like the people who
Right.
grew up with Tobey would probably say more often than not, Tobey's my Spider-Man. Same with the people who really grew up with Andrew before Tom Holland came into the picture. I grew up a little bit more on Tom Holland, so like Tom Holland has been my Spider-Man for a little longer, at least throughout high school. So I don't know.
I'm gonna say some smoke.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Some smoke. All right, you're up, Drew.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is from film_ranks. You ready?
I'm so ready. I'm trying to find the take.
TASM and Homecoming are the two best live-action Spidey films. False. Incorrect. Wrong.
Okay, wait. Here's the thing. I don't agree, by the way. I just do not. But I also think that they are two higher tier Spider-Man movies. And we were higher on TASM.
True.
And I like Homecoming a lot. But if we're talking about Spider-Man films,
And he put the word best in here.
I just don't. Yeah, like Spider-Man 2 is better.
Spider-Man 1 is better.
The Spider-Verse films are better.
Yeah. Oh, wait, he did say live action.
He did say live action. Yeah, that's fair. I do think Homecoming. I think Brand New Day is now in the conversation. Again, some of these were really commented before Brand New Day came out, so it's hard to like judge if Brand New Day is factored in. But I would say Brand New Day is better than both TASM 1.
I think it's better than TASM.
For my personal, I think it's better than TASM 1 and Homecoming.
I agree. ...
Asterisk. I don't know yet, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think there are two Spider-Man movies off the bat before Brand New Day that are better, being 1 and 2. And yeah. Did we have No Way Home above Homecoming?
I think we did in the
did.
final rankings, which I don't even still really agree with, but I'm okay with it.
No, I think I do agree. I think No Way Home is better than Homecoming.
I think it's fine.
But this is definitely a hot take. I'm going to say some for s'mores.
Enough for s'mores.
Okay.
Let's do it. All right. Okay, I have a take from Max Hirsch,
Okay.
1063. If you're ready for the next take, Drew.
I'm so ready.
He said in multiple takes, but here's one. Vulture has been Spider-Man's best villain in the films.
Okay. No, he has not.
Okay. Let's just talk through some of the main Spidey villains. We have
Okay.
Green Goblin.
Yep.
We have Doc Ock.
Yep.
We have Venom.
Sandman.
Harry.
Yeah.
We have Lizard. We have Harry
Electro
again
and Harry.
Electro. And then we have Vulture, Mysterio, everybody again in No Way Home.
And now Jean Grey.
And now Jean Grey. So, how we feeling?
Really Drumel Tillman, but it's
Yeah.
fine.
Metzger, Milchick,
Metzger.
whatever his name is.
Mr. Metzger Milchick.
Okay. Vulture. I'm just gonna go through this list.
Okay.
Vulture is better than Venom.
In Raimi?
In Raimi.
Yeah, he is.
Vulture's better than Lizard.
Yep.
Vulture is better than Electro.
Yep.
Vulture is better than both Harrys.
Yeah.
Vulture is better than Mysterio.
Yes.
Vulture is better than Jean Grey?
No.
Okay, we'll put that one aside because I feel like that's a whole conversation. Vulture's better than Green Goblin.
No.
Better written?
I don't care. Willem Dafoe has so much aura. It's not even.
Okay, and then here's really the kicker. Vulture's better than Doc Ock.
No.
So, the answer is no. I disagree. But I think he's an upper echelon
He
one.
is top 5 for sure.
Vulture's better than Sandman. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I'd say he's top 3 or 5. Like,
Yeah,
it's not crazy to say that he's the best. I just don't think... I think Doc Ock is so well written in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much nuance to his character that's hard for me to say that Vulture's better.
Michael Keaton's performance is great. I think he's sympathetic.
The plot twist is awesome.
The plot twist is great. I just don't think he's the best. But I think he's very good.
This is going to be a hot take, though.
Yeah, I think it is. I'm going to say enough for spoilers.
Yeah. Not Raging Fire yet. Will we have a Raging Fire take on this podcast? Who knows?
Probably.
Oh, gosh. We gotta double up with Max Hirsch right here.
All right, go for it.
Because he has a second take that reads, Spider-Man Homecoming was the first good Spider-Man. I really don't think any of the Raimi or Mark Webb are any good.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, I don't think we need to harp on, because we kind of just said everything about the villains that I would say about the movies. Is Homecoming a better Spider-Man movie than some other films? Sure. Is it top 3? No.
No, it's not.
I think Homecoming is a very good film. If you like the MCU vibe better, you'll like Homecoming better.
Right.
But like if we're talking Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man 2 is better than Homecoming, and TASM 1 and obviously Spider-Man 1
Homecoming.
are all better than Homecoming
Yeah.
as Spider-Man films. But I like Homecoming a lot.
Homecoming's great. It's super fun. But Raimi and Webb, at least in the beginning, have a better understanding of the character than Homecoming does.
I gotta say this is a Raging Fire take.
I think it is.
Because Spider-Man 2 is a significant step up from Homecoming. It just is.
Yeah.
So, thanks for seeing in the takes,
Yeah,
Max.
super
Sorry we
interesting.
did not agree.
I think he likes Homecoming, though.
Do you like Homecoming?
Yeah.
I mean, Homecoming is a really good movie. It's good.
It's probably the one I've seen the most.
Yeah, I think so
I've seen
too.
it a ton.
All right.
All right.
You're
We're
up.
going to go with Cutie Tup,
Cutie Top.
18. Uncle Ben's death in the first 2 adaptations doesn't move me that much. I understand he's important to Aunt May and Peter, and I feel for them, but we never get the chance to understand who he is that much before he dies. In the same but opposite way, Uncle Aaron in Into the Spider-Verse gets a lot of screen time showing how he accepts Miles and understands him like no one else, so his death feels properly moving.
I don't know.
I don't hate this.
I don't hate it. I think Uncle Aaron's death is actually maybe a little better.
I think it is better. But also, I don't necessarily think that's... I mean, Uncle Ben... I saw something interesting the other day.
Okay.
Complete side tangent, by the way. This is a Chris Nolan quote. He was talking about, like, plot devices and other, like, writing mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, people criticize things for being plot devicey, but it's, like, plot device is a neutral thing. And if it's used well, then it's effective as a plot device. If it's used bad, that's where the criticism comes in and be like, it's just a plot device. You see where it's going, whatever. I think Uncle Ben here is a very good plot device. You understand what it's like to have a father figure as a human, for the most part, to some degree. So you can empathize with Peter a lot here when his father figure dies. And when his father figure said something impactful right before his death, you understand how that moves the character along. So to me, that's a very effective plot device. We don't have to, we don't, as the audience, we do not have to care about Uncle Ben. We have to feel why Peter cares.
Yes.
And I think you totally get that from Raimi 1 and TASM 1.
Now, it helps if you care more about Uncle Ben.
It makes it more impactful for the audience, but I would argue the audience is not necessarily supposed to care about Uncle Ben as a character. They're supposed to care about Peter's actions after, and we totally do.
There's a layer of personal background, too. Like, if you've lost a father figure or a parental figure or grandparent or whatever that was really impactful in your life, like, you feel that. So some people are going to relate more to Uncle Ben than other people, and, like, that's okay. Do I think that if we're talking about within the movies, you get more screen time with Uncle Aaron and his death is better, maybe better written, better portrayed. I'd say yeah, that's probably fair. I don't think that's a crazy take. But I think Andrew Garfield's performance is great. I think Martin Sheen's great. I mean, I think the Raimi version is also very good. Like, I don't think it's necessarily bad. Like, you understand enough about who Uncle Ben is to Peter for it to not be bad.
Right.
So, I see where you're going with
I think
this
I
stuff.
agree with you, but also I don't think that's the point.
How hot is the steak?
Ooh, I'm going to say enough for s'mores.
I like that. I think it's like, I've never really heard this one. Maybe some people agree, but yes. All right. All right. Here we go. Are you ready?
Yep.
This is from Ryan2165.
Okay.
First two MCU Spidey movies were the worst interpretation of the character out of all live-action movies. They make him out to be Iron Man Jr. Gross. I got a hard agree on this one. Like, if we're talking about adaptation of the character, yeah, this is probably the worst version.
Wow.
Listen, I'm not saying that I dislike Homecoming.
Yeah, I agree as well.
I think Homecoming could have really been interesting as like where we are before he really becomes Spider-Man. However, we take too much time getting to him being Spider-Man for it to stay interesting. And I was thinking about this the other day because we get a lot of comments on our videos and people were like, "Why are you so low on Far From Home? It's a fun time." The arc he goes on in Far From Home is quite literally identical to what he goes in on Homecoming. In Homecoming, he is dealing with the weight of being under Spider-Man, or like in Spider-Man's shadow, or not Spider-Man. In Iron Man's shadow. Cannot speak. And even though he's alive in one and not in the other, he is dealing with a villain that is kind of the follow of Iron Man's actions. Okay, same in both movies. He realizes that he needs to not rely as much on on Iron Man's technology and rely more on his powers. He does that in both movies. In the Come On Spider-Man scene in Homecoming when he lifts the pillars, which is a great scene, and then in the Mysterio Spidey sense scene, which is also a great scene. And then at the end of the movie, he goes on with throughout his life. It's the same arc. And so I don't know. I feel like if Far From Home did something more interesting, we wouldn't talk about the Homecoming trilogy in the light that we do.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think the character regression from the end of Homecoming to the beginning of Far From Home is pretty severe.
He goes to space and fights Thanos, and he comes back and he's like, "I'm still Iron Man's kid."
It feels very... It just feels like we're recycling everything from Homecoming, like you said, but also it's like Peter is smarter, and he's way smarter than to give Quentin Beck the glasses. He's way smarter than to try to kill... It's not Flash. It's...
No, he does. Well, he does accidentally try to kill... Oh, it wasn't Flash.
Whatever the other...
He punches Flash. I don't know.
The boyfriend, or...
Is it Kevin?
I don't even know his name.
Whatever.
You all know what I'm talking about.
Whatever
In the bus
his name
scene.
is. Yes.
There's just so many moments of campy teenage fun that does not scream the Peter Parker who did Homecoming, did Infinity War, and Endgame. So...
Yeah, the fact that he learns to rely more on his own strength and who he is as Spider-Man in Homecoming, and then at the beginning of Far From Home, he's like, well, I have these cool glasses. I'm going to play with these for the whole movie. I mean, it also make sense that he's mourning Iron Man and wants to honor him? Yes, within the universe, it makes sense. But I think if Far From Home opened with him packing up the Homecoming suit, putting it in a box in his room, and putting on his new suit that he just made, it would have made just as much sense with the character.
I agree.
I'm honoring Tony, but I'm doing my own thing now that he's gone. So I don't know. I like the take.
Yeah, I think it's good.
How hot is the take?
Only embers.
Yeah. It's not that hot. I think people would agree. All right, you're up, Drew.
Okay. We're going to go with the animation critic Taylor I1264. You have a very long name. Hot take. For just TASM 1, about the swinging scenes, I don't really agree. Raimi's was better in that department.
I think this probably was commented on one of our TASM videos.
I agree.
Oh, I think the swinging and web work and, well, I don't know. I go back and forth.
I don't even know. I think Raimi 3, there's a couple scenes that are super dynamic, which is one of the strengths of that movie for me. I love it. I think the practicalness of TASM 1 specifically, I mean, there's the behind-the-scenes shot where they're on the bridge fighting Lizard, and you see just this stunt guy swinging on a bridge.
It's sick.
It's sick. So dope. But it's not as dynamic as, like, a Raimi 3.
But I think, like, because of, like, the little bit of Spider-Man rebrand and the more realistic feel, it does a really good job translating the web swinging to that and feeling realistic. Like, even the scene where he's in the sewers and he's, like, on the web and crawling around it, that looks sick.
Yeah, that scene's
And that's
so
not even
dope.
a swinging scene, but, like, that's the web stuff that's really cool. I think the scene on the bridge where he saves the kid in a more realistic way is super dynamic. Like, it's really, really cool. I mean, I guess we're only talking about TASM 1 here. I think it's just like, what do you prefer? Do you prefer more stylized web swinging, or do you prefer a more realistic web swinging?
I think I disagree here. I think TASM 1's better.
I also disagree.
Yeah. I think Raimi's great. And this is one of those things of, like, I think I said in the last episode, I don't want to have the argument of, like, it's built on whatever, but TASM is definitely built on Raimi in the sense of Raimi invented this whole thing of web swinging.
Yeah,
specifically.
100%. Yeah, you got to reference all the work that Sam did. So,
yeah.
Hotness skill.
Some smoke?
Sure, some smoke.
I feel like I've given every one of you some smoke, but that's okay.
We need a wet log steak at some point.
Should we find one?
Is it my turn or is it your turn? I think it's
mine. Oh, okay. I don't know.
No, it's mine, because you just read his name. His long name. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Okay, this is from Caleb G7.
Okay.
Spider-Man No Way Home wastes the perfect opportunity to tell a true Sinister Six story. After 8 live-action Spider-Man movies, we've still never really gotten a proper Sinister Six adaptation, and No Way Home had the ideal setup with so many iconic villains in one film. Instead, they mostly feel like individual villains sharing the same movie rather than a coordinated team. They rarely work together or feel like an actual supervillain alliance. I love the nostalgia and the Spider-Man moments, but I think Marvel missed a chance to finally give us the definitive Sinister Six storyline. That's not crazy.
No, I think it's just great, actually. I think I 100% agree. Except, again, are we counting PS4? Because there's definitely a Sinister Six storyline there.
Does the Sinister Six appear in Into the Spider-Verse? In full? No.
It's really just Kingpin and
Scorpion's
Prowler.
in it.
In the first one?
Yeah. Scorpion's in the first one. They, like, break down Aunt May's house. Scorpion's there.
Oh, that's true. Oh, wait. Okay. I guess Tombstone's there, too. Yeah, but that I don't think that
It doesn't
counts.
really count.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the true storyline if we're kind of going that direction. I agree.
I mean, in PS4, it's like Doc Ock rallies a team, and they have collective goals, and they all have individual motivations of why they should be a team. So, like, that makes sense very well. I don't think in any movie it works. And specifically No Way Home, it very much feels like everyone's there not as a team.
I think what's kind of unfortunate is that we were supposed to get it in TASM. Like, the end of TASM 2 is setting up the Sinister Six. If we were to ever get a TASM 3, I'd love to see a full adaptation of it. But, like, we probably won't ever get that. So,
Yeah.
we'll see. But I agree. I think it's a good take.
Yeah.
Hot scale?
Let's say
No.
this isn't like crazy hot. I think
Only
everybody
Amber.
agrees. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But I think it's a good take. I like the take.
Okay. We're going to go with Micah Fisher, 6125.
Gotta love some Micah Fisher on this podcast.
He says, screw it, I'm submitting a second hot take because Spider-Man, which is a perfectly valid reason. Spider-Man 3 is better than the first Spider-Man film. The way it completes the entire trilogy on a thematic and emotional level is brilliant. It really feels like everything was building up to that conclusion. Thoughts, Grant Crenshaw?
Micah, I know you, at least through Letterboxd. I know that you really love Spider-Man 3 from a nostalgic standpoint. We have to be realistic here. There are good moments. I think the character conclusions of Peter, MJ, Harry are good.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the way we get there is not that good.
You really think 3 is better than 1? That's crazy.
I think 1 is just a little more solid. Like, foundations are better there. Execution is better.
I guess his point sounds like it's like, is the finality of an arc better than the beginning?
If it's done well, yeah, but I don't think this is the best end of a trilogy or end of a Spider-Man thing that exists.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it is. Jury's out, honestly. I don't really know how I feel about it. I'm going to have to think on it, low-key, but I don't think 3 is better than 1. If we're
No, I
talking,
don't either.
like, agree, disagree. I disagree, Micah. I think it's got to be a hotter take, right?
Yeah, I think it is. I'm going to say enough for s'mores.
Yep, that's fine with me. Good take, Micah. Okay. Trying to find a good one. Okay, this is from ShaanJamesP. Shout out, Sean.
Okay.
The Tobey Maguire films are like the Star Wars prequels to me. They have a certain charm, a lot of nostalgia attached, but the more I rewatch them, the less they hold up. The stories told in them aren't any more interesting in comparison to the TASM films, in my opinion.
You're going to agree with this.
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. There are parts I understand and parts I agree with, parts I disagree with. What do you think?
I think they definitely are very prequel-y in the nostalgia and the certain charm. You got to get past the dialogue. If that's a problem for you, you're not going to like these movies, or probably the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
I completely lost the take. It just went away. But I do think the foundational story of specifically 1 and 2 are better than TASM 1 and 2.
I feel like 2 holds up pretty well in 2026.
Okay.
Like, I think 2 is the outlier here. If you were to say, like, only 1 and 3, I'd be like, okay, I can kind of see where you're coming from. The filmmaking hasn't aged incredibly. But I think 2 is, like, really well written and also looks very solid.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you're going to criticize little things of, like, Tobey Maguire's acting or, like, just the early 2000s CGI, like, I can get behind that. But I think comparing the stories to TASM, I mean, TASM 1 is basically kind of not copy-paste Raimi 1, but, like, the bones of that story are pretty similar.
True.
Outside the Gwen stuff, which is different. Well, I don't know.
No, because he specifically tells Gwen he's Spider-Man.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, the arc of TASM 1 and 2 with Gwen's death at the end is actually, like, very solid and very unique and might be better. If we're just taking that arc compared to, like, the arc of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Peter Parker, is that actually a good take?
No, I think it's a bad take. I think the arc of him sacrificing MJ and then wrestling with his identity and why should I be Spider-Man
Yeah, you're right.
is better. I think TASM is great. I do. But I don't think it's better.
Okay, we'll say disagree. How hot is this take?
I'm going to say enough for s'mores. I think it's pretty hot, honestly.
Yeah, I agree, actually.
Okay.
All right, you want to do a few more?
Yeah, let's do a few more.
Okay.
We're going to go with John Bonjour 4.
Jean Bonjour 4.
I made a series of videos on this, but essentially the case is every Spider-Man movie is at least very good. Or is at the very least good. They all have their bespoke issues, but each of them captures what a good Spider-Man movie needs to be.
Until the Homecoming trilogy, I say, yeah, that's fine. I'd say Far From Home is, like, the biggest offender here.
I agree.
And I know we, like, have been getting a lot of comments on, like, hey, why are you guys hating on Far From Home so much? But I would encourage you to rewatch it if you haven't seen it in a while. I just don't think it's aged well.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, it just feels like filler, and like I just said earlier on this podcast, it's like the same story arc from Homecoming, but done worse.
I mean, I even think this for Homecoming and No Way Home. I assume this was commented before Brand New Day. Yeah, I think I agree mostly here. Also, John, I have read, you know he writes a comic.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he mentioned this one time.
I have read your comic. Audience, I'm going to shout you out, John. If you want a super interesting comic, go read John's comment. John, you should comment it down below, and we'll pin it to the top.
Got you.
But I thought it was great. I thought it was super interesting.
I'm going to say I disagree. I think that the Homecoming trilogy doesn't perfectly capture Peter as Spider-Man really until the end of No Way Home a little bit, and then Brand New Day really picks up with Peter as Spider-Man and what the character really should be. So, I think as a precursor to Brand New Day, it works really well. But outside of that, it's kind of just the MCU Spider-Man. So,
yeah, I think I agree with that.
it's going to be a hotter take, too. You think?
I feel like most Spider-Man fans recognize that Homecoming and Far From Home are pretty bad. Or not bad, but not great adaptations.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm going to say some smoke.
Some smoke. It's a smoky episode.
It's a smoky episode. Kind of a smoky fire right now.
That's okay.
That's okay.
That's why you love us.
Because we're smoky.
Sure.
All right, guys. Thunder is on the horizon.
If you have a keen ear and a very loud sub speaker, you might be able to hear it on our podcast.
So we're only going to do like 2 more, and then we're going to get out of here.
All right. I have one. This is from Amazing Turtle 4708.
This is interesting.
I think you will have more opinions on this. Miles Morales as a character peaked in the Spider-Verse films, and the comics never came in the same ballpark. Gonna be honest, I haven't read any of the Miles comics or Spider-Man comics, so like, don't hear me being racist. I just haven't read any comics. that sounded bad when it came out of my mouth. I
have exclusively not read. I also haven't read a ton of Miles, which is surprising because I really like Miles. I've read the Spider-Verse arc where like everyone's together, but I have not read a ton of Miles. I have heard that his comics are not as good as Peter's though.
Yeah.
So, and I've heard that they're super different from the movies. So I don't have a ton to say here. I absolutely love the Spider-Verse movies, and that the Spider-Verse might be my favorite movie of all time. So,
I guess the PS5 version doesn't really hold a candle to anything either.
I think it's good. I think it's super solid, but it's not groundbreaking.
Also, Miles hasn't been around for that long.
That's true.
I think people forget sometimes, unless you're a Spider-Man fan, like, Miles is not like a long-standing character. Like, he came out like, what, 20 years ago?
12-ish?
Yeah, so that was like less than 15 years ago. Like, that's not a long time to be around as a character. So,
true.
Shout out Donald Glover.
Shout out.
Gosh,
please come on, stole my line, Donald Glover.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm fine with this take.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
I'll say I agree as someone who hasn't read a single Spider-Man comic in my life.
I also agree with basically the same amount of information.
Okay, hottest scale. This got to be kind of a colder take.
I'm going to say only Embers.
Only Embers.
Okay.
All right, that's fine.
All right.
Hit us with one more, Drew.
We got to find a good one.
By the way, if you're new to the channel, thank you again for being here.
This is good.
Subscribe if you haven't already. Comment below your Spider-Man hot take. We might do a part 3 soon before we milk all of Spider-Man because we've done a lot of Spider-Man on this channel recently.
We have.
If you have MCU hot takes, we will be getting around to those throughout the rest of 2026. So comment that as well.
We're going to do a little Avengers marathon.
Yep.
We might check a couple of
we'll do
other heavy MCU hitters.
MCU greatest hits leading up to Doomsday kind of vibe. We'll review the the Endgame re-release that's in theaters. So we'll do all of that.
We also have a couple more marathons planned that I'm pretty excited about that are not superhero related.
Yes.
Or Star Wars related. Completely other genre.
Yes.
They are big franchises with big IP coming out in this year.
So, we've been cooking behind the scenes.
Okay.
Also my line. Drew, what's the take?
Final take of Spider-Man Hot Takes Dose. There will be more, don't worry. That one, Oompa Loompa. Another awesome name. By the way, Hunka Hunka. I'm still laughing about your name.
Let's go.
The Spider-Verse movies are the only Spider-Man movies above a 7 out of 10. Spider-Man 1 and 2 and Homecoming are all good. 7 out of 10 movies. But the Raimi trilogy might be a little too campy for its own good and have some dumb subplots. The Tom Holland ones are too tied to the MCU, and Tazo movies are just mediocre. Only the Spider-Verse movies strike the perfect chord of seriousness, actual great storytelling, and comic book fun. Easily the best character work for Spider-Man. So you're arguing Spider-Verse are 8 out of 10 or above.
And no other Spider-Man movie.
1, 2, and Raimi. No, that didn't make any sense. Raimi 1, 2, and Homecoming are 7 out of 10, and everything else is lower.
All right, let's go through the list.
Okay.
In your opinion, and I'll give my input too, Raimi 1 out of 10, what would you rate it? And let's factor in every single thing about the movie, including the campiness. And I mean, he kind of says as movies here. So if we're saying as movies.
I'm going to say an 8 out of 10.
I think I could say 7 out of 10 here and be okay with it.
I think that's fine.
As a movie.
I think that's fine.
Raimi 2.
A 9.5.
I say as a movie, it's so solid. It's like the pacing's great, the character moments are great, it looks great. Like, is it a little campy? Yes, but the dialogue's the best in the Raimi trilogy in this movie. Like, if you don't like Tobey Maguire, that's fine. Like, you probably won't like this movie as much.
Right.
But I think this is at least an 8 out of 10, if not a 9 out of 10. Some people could argue a 10 out of 10, and I wouldn't even hate it.
Yeah.
So say Spider-Man 2 is an outlier right now. Raimi 3,
6 out of 10.
I would say 4 out of 10, but whatever. TASM 1, 7 out of 10.
7, I think it's a solid 7.
That's fine.
Yeah.
TASM 2, 6 out of 10?
I'm going to say a 6.8.
I would say a 6 or a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good and a lot of bad. Homecoming,
As a movie,
as a movie, 7 or 8 out of 10. I'm in that range.
6.5.
I'm okay with 7.
Okay.
I'd even maybe say 7.5, but whatever. Far From Home,
Like a 5.
I gotta give like a 5 or 6,
Yeah.
maybe. No Way Home, as a movie.
A 6.8.
No Way Home has to like ride on its predecessors though.
Yeah, but
where
we
it's, like,
can't fault the movie for that.
No, I know. I'm just
Okay.
saying like it's weird. It's hard to rate it as a movie because it like has so much coming before it. But I'll say sure 6.5, 7 out of 10,
Okay.
somewhere in there. Brand New Day, 8 out of 10.
8.5. Yeah.
So say Brand New Day and Spider-Man 2 are the real outliers here. And I want to hear your thoughts on that. But I think the Spider-Verse movies are better movies overall
I agree.
than
Yeah.
most, if not all, of those movies too. So like from that perspective, it's not that hot of a take.
I think there are more 7 out of 10s than you mentioned, but I basically agree here. Yeah.
Okay.
How hot do you think is this?
This is. I think the hotness comes in where you're saying no Spider-Man movie is above a 7 out of 10 until Spider-Verse. I'm like, I just think that
That's
becomes
kind of
a hot
crazy.
take.
Yeah.
I'm going to say enough for s'mores to round out this episode
I agree.
of Hot Takes on Stole My Line. Do you have anything else you want to add, Drew?
There will be more if we didn't get to yours.
Don't worry.
Or if you're like, I'm not going to comment now because they're not going to respond. We keep them all in a notes app.
More Spider-Man movies come out. Like, we're not going to just delete all these. At some
We will
point.
do more. We'll
So-
probably I'd say we do one more soon.
And then when Spider-Verse comes out, hopefully next year, when it's slated to come out, we're going to revisit all the stuff.
Yeah.
So,
So keep commenting. We will get to yours eventually.
yes.
Yeah, we got a lot in the pipeline.
Mhm.
Lots of stuff we're excited about.
Yep. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button.
All you got to do is subscribe.
We have a lot of cool stuff in the works. We're doing a bunch of behind-the-scenes work right now. If you've noticed, the podcast is getting a little bit of a facelift right now. So we're going to keep working on that. And we love you guys. Thanks for supporting our channel. Thanks for 5K. I mean, we're glad to be here.
That's
glad to
sick.
keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you guys. Love you all. Take a break.
And with great power comes great responsibility.
Enjoy it.